So this covers all of our cases. Getting just one answer that's a point, or getting that there are infinitely many because they're the same line, or this last one, getting that there are no answers because the two lines are parallel. They're never going to intersect, which is what you're looking for. Is what are your chances of intersecting? Where do they happen? Is it just a point? Is it a bunch of points? Is it no points at all? So, substitution is used a lot, and we will do in the next section some word problems. So I would make sure that you're comfortable with substitution, because you can, if needed, do any problem using substitution. However, there is another method called elimination, and it is really helpful to know both. Why? Well, sometimes problems are easier by substitution because you can easily get a letter by itself. Well, sometimes you can't easily get a letter by itself without involving tons of fractions. Those are the problems that are going to be easier by elimination. However, on a test, on a homework, if you want to do all the problems by substitution, you can. If you want to do all the problems by elimination, you can. It really doesn't matter. However, I do think that it's really important that you know both of these tools. And we will use substitution and elimination later at the very end of this course, in chapter 7, I believe. Or at least, at the very least, if you don't see it again in this course, you'll see it in college algebra. So this first problem, problem A, is already set up for elimination. Why is that? Well, here's the idea with elimination. If I write my two equations as is, and like I said, we're lucky this one's already set up as the 6x plus 5y equals negative 7, and the negative 6x on the second equation minus 11y equals 1. What elimination has you do is take your two equations and add them together. And what happens is one of your variables needs to eliminate when you're adding. Well, notice that happens on this one. Something eliminates because when you add the 6x and the negative 6x, they'll just cancel out because they're opposites. This is called elimination. We've eliminated a variable completely. So that's going to be the goal with elimination, is to have two of the same variables with the same numbers out in front. One needs to be positive though, and one needs to be negative, so that when you add them up, they will cancel or eliminate. This one was just already perfectly set up for us. So next part, we would continue with adding normally. We have a 5y plus a negative 11y, which is going to give us a negative 6y equals, I still have to do the same thing to the other side of the equation. The other side of the equation is negative 7 and 1 that we're adding. So that will give us a negative 6. Well, now I have a very nice equation that can be quickly solved. I can quickly solve this equation just by dividing both sides by a negative 6, which will give me that y equals, well, the negative 6's cancel first, and then negative 6 divided by negative 6 on the other side is just the number 1. Just like in the last couple problems, though, that's only half of the answer. Remember, our answer should be a point, and we've got half of it. We've got the y coordinate. So when I go to find my answer, I only have half of it. I have the y coordinate, the 1. How do I find the x? Well, remember, this is where the two lines intersect, so both lines will have to go through this point. So I need to take this 1 and go back to either one of the original equations, it doesn't matter which, because they both go through this line, and plug in the 1 to one of the two equations. You get to pick, so pick whichever one's easiest to you. I am going to pick, let's see, the top equation just because it has less negatives. So we'll choose our 6x plus 5y equals -7. And remember, we found out that y equals 1, so we're going to replace the y with a 1. So remember, when you make that replacement, we should be putting parentheses around the 1. So what that then gives us is 6x plus, well, then the 5 times 1 is just 5, equals our -7. Keep solving it like you would a normal equation. So we'd subtract the 5 from both sides, which would give us that 6x equals -12. Keep on going. Divide both sides by 6. And that gets us that x equals a -2. So that's our first part of our point. Then I need to go plug in my x is -2. So I'll go back to my answer. I already had my y and plug in my x of -2. So that means that these two lines intersect at the point -2, +1.